What is up, everybody? Olivia Moody here with another episode of Past the Spread. I am joined today by Nick Yahl and Jeff Parles. Fellas, thanks for joining me yet again. We've got some basketball to talk about. We're going to start with college hoops, believe it or not, because we've been waiting for this week all year. It's finally happening, March Madness. But before we jump into that, on the subject of college, we are actually looking for college ambassadors over here at Book It Sports, people to spread the word about Book It, use Book It, get more people on the app. You'll get to rep some merch at some point. It's going to be a really cool thing. And we've also got a really cool college March Madness exclusive to college students little situation happening. I don't want to give too much away, but Nick, you're kind of in charge of that. People can shoot you an email if they're interested. Is there anything else that I missed in terms of these college ambassadors and what they'd be doing?
Yeah, I got some cool giveaways going for March Madness that we'll announce on Sunday for Selection Sunday. So definitely stay tuned in that and really just getting out on your campus, spreading the good word about Book It. Going to be cool incentives that we'll have available, including some merchandise, swag like I am wearing currently, that we will get sent to you. So if you are interested in that college ambassadors program, just shoot me an email, nick@bookitsports.app.
Love it. On the subject of college, it makes sense that we jump right into the NCAA. Like I said, we've been waiting for this week all year long. So I got to ask, how are we doing right now? Jeff, I know we were kind of on a cold streak there in college basketball, not to throw you under the bus here, but I would argue college basketball has been hard for everybody. And Jeff and I were kind of talking about this a little bit before the show started, that now we're seeing positive COVID tests that are having these teams drop like flies. Nick, I know you had a futures bet on Kansas. They got ruled out today from the Big 12 tournament, so that's tough. We talked about what we were going to see from the Big 12 tournament on the last episode of Past the Spread. So things are changing every day, and I think we all said last episode, anything can happen in March Madness. So I want to know, give a quick update before we get into March Madness and some futures bets and all that good stuff. What is the status of our record right now? How are we feeling, Jeff? Let's start with you. Do we have any redemption, Jeff? Are we?
Yeah, it's one of those where I have to learn how to stay in my lane because I keep winning in hockey and college basketball keeps being this roller coaster nonsense. So, but this reeks of Jason, who is not even here with us today, just trying to find a way to throw us under the bus early in the show. That's all this reeks of here, Liv.
Big eye roll. I think you wrote big eye roll on the right.
Yeah, there was another word I don't want to say on here. So
massive blank eye roll. You guys can use your imagination on that one. Nick, how are you feeling right now in college basketball? I think you've been kind of hot lately, if I'm not mistaken.
4-0 to start the day today, so we are rolling. Ohio State's looking good. KU bet for the Big 12 pushes because they get bounced, but Georgia Tech bet is looking nice. They move on to the ACC finals, with Virginia being bounced because of the COVID protocols. So we get UNC later today. I have some action on that game. UNC's been pretty hot for me right now. Won their last 3 bets that I placed with them in there. So I'm looking for one more spot too for a futures tournament champion. We'll wait till the bracket comes out for that. But basketball been good to me right now.
I love it. And I'm going to probably tell you, I made a huge mistake yesterday. I was talking a big game to intern Chuck on the Book It Sports app.
Shit.
I was really, really chirping him hard.
Oklahoma State and Cade Cunningham was going to get that done.
You know what? In my thought process, Bob Huggins is a great coach. And I knew that the Mountaineers let their guard down with OSU, knowing that Cunningham wasn't playing. And I just thought that they wouldn't want to lose again. And I thought that they'd be able to get it done. But, you know, you can't deny that OSU is looking awesome. That was totally my mistake. But long story short, I need to stop fading intern Chuck and maybe stop fading Nick Yahl as well. I know they seem to be doing pretty well. Nick, you're doing pretty well. So lots of good people on the app to tail if you are feeling like Jeff and I when March Madness rolls around. It kind of feels like a dark cloud hanging over our heads a little bit. So that's all the more reason to go to Book It and check out the people in that community, because for the most part, we've got a lot of people to know what they're talking about this month. That being said, there's tons of college hoop action tonight with these conference tournaments in full sprint. We're seeing all this great basketball as of the last couple days. So I need some parlays. I know we like to stay away from parlays, but I want to hear, give me your best 4-teamer tonight. Tail and parlay at your own risk, people. I'm just going to say that, okay? But I'd love to know what you guys like for tonight if we're building a little 4-teamer. Nick, let's let you go first.
Well, I really wish I would have parlayed my bets earlier today. My best bets were Michigan, Alabama, and now Ohio State. Those are all looking good. But we'll look at some action for later. Colorado -1.5 against USC. LSU -1 against Ole Miss. I think that line should be way better for LSU than it is. Missouri +5.5 against Arkansas. Usually don't bet against or bet with my own team, but we're going to do it here. 5.5. Missouri, I think, has a chance to win the game outright, but I do think it'll be a close one either way. And then UNC, Florida State over 151. Both teams have been shooting the ball well, and so we're going with that.
Nick, I hate to call you out, but I do remember you posting on Book It the other night saying that Mizzou looked horrid.
Yesterday.
So what's making you feel better about this?
Last night's Mizzou basketball game, first half, was maybe one of the ugliest first halves of basketball that I have ever watched between two college teams. Nobody could make anything, nothing. But late in the second half, Xavier Pinson for the Tigers, Drew Smith, Jeremiah Tillman, all their vets stepped up. And this is a matchup that people have been excited for. Arkansas is playing really good basketball, but I just think at that number, I think Arkansas may still win this game, but at 5.5, I think it's more of like a 2-3 point game than a 5.5, 6-point game favoring Arkansas. I think the team's a little bit closer than that. Could come down the stretch down to free throws. So we'll see.
Sounds like it's a redemption game for Missouri's lack of clean basketball for Nick. He said it was kind of messy. So hopefully they can pull through for you today and cover that spread. Jeff, it looks like you have quite a bit of plus money in your 4-teamer tonight. Tell us what you're liking.
Well, a lot of dogs for me today, Liv. Except I will say this again. Jason obviously wants picks to fade if he's asking us to throw this together for this as the doorbell goes off in a time-honored tradition on the show. Iowa -180 on the money line. I don't feel confident enough to lay the 4 in this, and so I'll put the money line with Iowa against Wisconsin -180. We'll take 4.5 of Colorado State against Utah State, and then we're going to the Big Sky. Who doesn't love 2 Montana teams in here? We'll take Montana State +7 against Southern Utah, and then Montana +7 on their own against Eastern Washington tonight. So +7 on the Grizz, +7 on the Bobcats, +4.5 on the Colorado State Rams, and an Iowa money line in there.
Awesome. I'm liking it, and I'm honestly probably going to tell you both because I haven't taken a great look at the slate. I've been focusing more on the Big 12 because of my bias and my brother's team once being in there after the loss to OSU, not so much anymore, but I've been paying close attention to the Big 12, which leads me to my next question. Semis are tonight with OSU versus Baylor. Baylor favored by 9 here, and the winner plays Texas because, like we talked about, Kansas got sent home due to COVID. So the Longhorns are moving forward. I don't think they would have moved forward if it weren't for COVID, so they got some luck there. Who meets the Longhorns in the finals tomorrow? I'd like to know your guys' thoughts here. Nick, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think this one still ultimately is going to favor Baylor in the end, but I am going to sprinkle Oklahoma State against the spread +9. I do think it is going to be a closer game. Cade Cunningham, that guy's a bad man. You got to look out for him. He's been doing his thing. It looks like he'll be healthier than he has been towards the end of the regular season with that ankle, so he should be good to go. But I am going to still pick Baylor to win this game outright, but Oklahoma State +9.
Jeff, are you agreeing here? You like Oklahoma State to cover the spread?
Yeah, I would take 9. I want to wait and see if I can get 10 before bopping Oklahoma State here, but 9's probably fine too. Cunningham is back. He didn't look 100% yesterday, but it didn't matter. That was just it didn't seem like Bob Huggins was doing much coaching in the second half yesterday of that game, but a good quality win as a dog by Oak State. But look, they covered against Baylor last week when they played. They were getting 12.5, lost by 11. And I think getting 9, I would lean towards the Cowboys here. But if we get to 10, then I would take the Cowboys for sure.
Let's talk about the ACC. Nick, If I remember correctly, you may have some futures bets in this conference. So let's start with you on this one. We know that the winner of the UNC Florida State game will face off with Georgia Tech in the ACC championship tomorrow night. Florida State is favored by 2.5 here. What's the best bet? And ultimately, who do you guys think is going to win this tournament? Nick, I know you've got some futures bets, so I'll let you go first.
Yeah, this is pretty much a coin flip game between FSU and UNC. UNC, like I had mentioned, had won my last 3 bets for me, and they are my long shot to win the tournament at 41. But I do think that it's going to be a very close game. I probably won't bet the spread in this one at all. I think I have the over in this one. I mentioned that earlier for the 4-way parlay, so I won't bet the spread. But if I had to pick one, if I had to lean one way or the other, I would probably lean UNC just because they've been hot right now. Caleb Love, as mentioned, my guy out of St. Louis. I feel like I'm repeating myself over and over, but we'll keep rolling with what's been working and lean UNC here.
Ride the wave until you can't anymore. We saw that with the Utah Jazz. We could ride that wave for a real long time. Shout out to DH Betts. He's on Twitch giving us a little question. What's going on, guys? Hello, DH Betts. We are now streaming live from Twitch, YouTube, and here on Twitter as well. So make sure you guys are tuning in from all platforms. Jeff, who do you like to face off with Georgia Tech in this ACC championship? And who do you think wins it all?
So I have a balloon 25-1 on Georgia Tech to win this tournament. So I'm okay with their path being beat the 13 seed, get the bye to the final because Virginia has a COVID positive, and then only has to win a game is about probably a plus 180 underdog regardless of who wins this game tonight. So I'm all in on Georgia Tech. But for tonight, if this is 2.5 is a really good number actually here. It's a sharp number because I had this if it was 2, I would take Florida State. If it was 3, I'd probably look at North Carolina. So this is an awfully difficult game. So I'm going to stay off, but I would lean towards the Noles. I know they haven't played yet in this tournament, but they lost to Carolina when they played them 2 weeks ago. I think this is a revenge spot for the Noles. So I would lean towards Florida State here in that one tonight against UNC. Should be a good one. That should be a really good game. And North Carolina, if you're a 1 seed and you draw UNC as an 8, you have to be pissed as hell that the committee would have done that to you.
I'm sensing a potential squad play in our future. All of us riding out with Georgia Tech. It sounds like we've got some book it people that have some money on that team. So I'm sensing a squad play.
My futures isn't as good as Jeff's is at 25-1. Mine's only like
Nick, DraftKings was dishing a weird number up until Monday morning on that. It made no sense. It was very, very
Monday night is where I got in at.
Yeah, anything. There were still a lot of good mispriced numbers on Georgia Tech there. But hey, if the Jackets win the ACC tournament, so be it. The best one will be if we get a forfeit again and the Yellow Jackets legitimately play one game against Miami and win the ACC tournament.
I would love that.
Keep your eyes peeled, Book It community, for a potential squad play here in the next day or so. I'm thinking Georgia Tech, we're going to have to all buckle down and ride that one out together. Let's close out college hoops, though, with a question. Have there been any teams that have impressed you during these conference tournaments that you're keeping an eye on as we approach March Madness? Like I said, this week is finally here. We've been waiting for it for a long time. Are you planning on placing any futures bets on teams after watching these conference tournaments? Or are you simply just looking for their matchups in the coming weeks and you want to keep your eyes peeled for them as we enter the tournament? Jeff, thoughts here?
Well, as always, the tournament is matchup based. Don't go totally crazy on something if you like a team and you don't like their matchup in that individual game. If you look across the board, I'll give you 2. I only listed 1, but I'll give you 2 because LiveLocks, you just posted about one guy, and I like the way that they're trending recently. Loyola Chicago won the Missouri Valley last weekend. They are familiar to the NCAA tournament. They were in the Final Four just 3 years ago, where they lost to Michigan in the Final Four. They're going to be an 8 seed. I think they're going to be a really difficult out if they against any of those 1 seeds. I think they're going to have a big problem. And then LiveLocks, there you go. I'll give UConn a shout out as well. Pick them tonight against Creighton. James Bouknight is back. Since Bouknight has gotten back, the Connecticut Huskies look like a legitimate second weekend team. So those are teams lower on the board that I've been impressed with lately and in their conference tournament. So I would look at UConn, and I would look at the Loyola Chicago Ramblers, and a shout out to our buddy DK welcoming us to Twitch. We are more than thrilled to be here, DK.
Yes, we are happy to be finally on Twitch. It's been something we've been working on for a little bit, so we're excited. Nick, any teams that you've been watching in these conference tournaments that maybe you're keeping an eye on as we approach these tournaments in March Madness?
Yeah, after watching Maryland the past couple days, they are hot. I know they played a great first half against Michigan. Michigan ultimately comes away with the win in that game, but Maryland is looking nice. Oklahoma State certainly is trending in the right direction. Hopefully, if they can beat Baylor tonight, I think that definitely gives them a little bit of an edge heading in the tournament. I don't know how deep of a run they'll make, but Cade Cunningham playing good basketball. And then, of course, Alabama has just looked impressive all around. They were my pick to win the SEC tournament and just absolutely throttled, beat the boots off of Mississippi State today. When their three-point shot is on and their defense plays well, that is the recipe for Alabama to make a big, deep run and just win these games massively by large blowouts. And so we certainly saw that against the Mississippi State team today in the SEC tournament. That isn't one of the SEC's best teams. If they can keep that up down the tournament and into the big dance, that'll be interesting to watch as well.
So keep your eyes peeled. We've got some teams to look out for definitely as we approach March Madness, the week we've all been waiting for. Excited for that to start. Let's talk a little bit of NBA to close us out here, fellas. I've got to first ask, can Utah cover at minus 16.5 at home against the Rockets? Now, I know the Rockets are not the strongest team right now, but 16.5, that's a lot of points. It's a ridiculous spread. Nick, let's start with you. Do you think that they're able to cover a spread that big?
Well, when it comes to sports betting, you bet numbers, not teams. And certainly the Utah Jazz might do this easily. They might win this game by 20, 25, 30. I don't know. But it's the NBA, and 16.5 is a ridiculous number. I'm not betting this game either way. I'm not picking a side. Might watch it. Utah's been hot. Their three-point shooting is on. Houston, not great defense. So I think that's why this number is so high. But, no, we're staying away.
Jeff, you staying away as well, or you like something here?
So here's the deal, Nick, with the ultimate cliche, but it is true. In sports betting, you bet numbers, not teams, of course. And 17 in an NBA game is a lunatic number. You just don't see that very often. And remember last year in the bubble, you saw a few numbers that were bloated like this. The Brooklyn Nets pulled that massive upset as I think it was 19 against Milwaukee last year in the bubble. We saw a few numbers like this before the bubble as well. But 17, I think you're obligated to take the 17, and if you lose it, so be it. Just so many points in an NBA game, and I know the Rockets are really bad right now. Since Christian Wood got hurt, they are 1-13 against the number. Forget that they've only won one game out of their last 16, but with no Wood in those 14, 1-13 against the number. They've been horrible against the spread, but 17 is just so many points. Nick, I'll ask you this. I'll ask that for both of you, actually. Do either of you have the fortitude to take any sort of bet of the Rockets at 14-1 plus 1,400 to win a one-off NBA basketball game tonight? Will either of you do it?
No.
Oh, come on. You're no fun, Nick.
No way.
No fun.
Throwing money away.
14-1 on an NBA game is wild, too. And keep in mind, I mean, look, that net game, they were 19-1 in that game last year, and they won that game. But again, I'm not saying Houston's going to win. They're on a second of a back-to-back. And they really are horrible right now. And Utah, fresh, has not played since the All-Star break either. So, but 17, just so many points in an NBA game, Liv. It just is.
It's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, I say it's a lot. However, one of my props was absolutely demolished with the blowout game between the Warriors and the Clippers. I did not see that coming. I thought we were going to get, Steph Curry doing what he does best and pulling back from a really big deficit at halftime. I thought that's what we were going to see. It's definitely not what we saw. As you know, blowouts screw your player props. They just do. I was 0-2 yesterday in player props, and that might be why I'm a little grumpy today, perhaps. But it was a rough night nonetheless. So I'm hoping we don't see that same thing tonight, because blowouts are not fun for anybody. They don't make betting fun. They're not exciting. So I hope we don't see that. Like you said, 17 is a lot of points. So if we do see it, then congrats, Utah. But I hope we have a close matchup between these two. Now that we've talked about that game, what are your guys' best bets in the NBA tonight when you're taking a look at the slate? Jeff, let's start with you.
Yeah, again, a lot of back-to-backs tonight, which, again, you're going to see a lot of those this year because of they're trying to stick so many games into a short period of time now. So you're going to see a lot of back-to-backs. I'm going to look to Philly tonight, laying 4.5 against Washington. Embiid is likely going to be back. He's probable tonight. Still no Ben Simmons, but you get the MVP back against a team that isn't particularly good and a team that can't really defend, especially that the position. So I would look to laying the 4.5 with Philadelphia tonight.
So that kind of leads me to my next point here. When you're taking a look at that Sixers game, I know we're talking about player props in a little bit, but we had Claudia on Prop Talk yesterday, and she took over 24.5 for Tobias Harris because Embiid was out. He plays better without Embiid. And then you also had Ben Simmons out on top of that. Granted, he sat on 24 points for a little too long and screwed her by just 0.5. Welcome to sports betting. That's what
Welcome
it's all
to the
about.
hook.
Exactly.
A half-point hook.
To the light. But my
Wrong
question for you,
side.
Jeff, is if we do have Embiid back, would taking a look at Tobias Harris's under be a good idea for tonight? His line right now is at 22.5. He was sitting on 24 for a while. We potentially will see Embiid back in the game. I know unders are kind of a thing that I don't do a ton. What would be your thought process on that?
I wouldn't bet it either way. I just you're talking about the Washington Wizards. You're talking about the Washington Wizards on the other side, one of the worst defensive teams in the league. So yeah, you would think that an under would be a reasonable play, but it's, again, you're playing against Washington. You don't want to bet unders in Washington games, regardless of who's involved.
Right. Agreed. Nick, best bet for tonight when you're taking a look at the NBA slate.
I love that Sixers bet. We're going to Chicago, though. Both teams on a back-to-back against Miami. Miami's healthy. Line's only -2.5 favoring the Heat. And with a healthy Heat team, I mean, this is a team that was in the NBA Finals. So give me the Heat -2.5.
Do you happen to know what the total is for that game? You mentioned back-to-backs. It kind of makes me lean a little bit towards the under tonight.
I will check the Book It Sports app and
Woohoo!
see what that line is.
Yeah, I mean, when you're playing back-to-backs, you've got to consider the exhaustion factor there. You know, are they going to be tired? Less scoring.
Currently on Book It Sports 220.5. I'll double check.
Yeah, that's right,
FanDuel
Nick.
as well.
That's right. That's right.
Perfect.
So I may lean the under. I don't really do totals very often. I think I told you that last time, Jeff, but I may lean that way on that one. You brought up a great point, playing back-to-backs. That kind of makes me want to
So we're all
check
about.
in the app. Nice plug.
Almost like I know what I'm doing. Almost.
Sometimes.
Slightly.
New
Let's
update.
wrap-
New update can be available very soon in the Apple app and Google Play stores as well.
Good.
Woo-wee. Exciting. Let's wrap everything up here, fellas, with my favorite thing ever, NBA player props. Like I said, I'm coming off an 0-2 night. I'm cold right now. I need to pick this back up. I'll start with what I like for tonight. I like Jamal Murray over 23.5 points. He'll be up against Ja Morant. I think we'll see quite a shootout between those two players. You'll have Jokic getting Jamal the ball quite a bit. I'm hoping he hits this over no problem, especially if it's a close game. I think he hits this over, no doubt. But if we see a blowout, which is always a possibility in the NBA, then that makes me a little, as Mike Yover would say, wary. I hate that word, but that's what he says.
Wary.
Nick, let's move on to you. NBA prop for tonight. What do you like?
Brad Beal. I don't know what. I can't find it anywhere what his points is at right now, but we'll take the over. Brad Beal. No Ben Simmons tonight in that game. Coming back out of the second half, he's been leading the league in scoring, so we'll go Brad Beal over points.
That's how you know you're just the man. You don't even need to know what his line's
Nick
at.
Yahl betting a line that does not exist right now. That's a bold move, Cotton.
Bradley
Take whatever
Beal.
it is, though. Brad
That's
Beal
a compliment to Bradley Beal. I mean, dude, we don't even know what your line is yet, and we're hammering the over. That's just how much faith we have in you. That's a
Come from
risky move, Nick.
the Pure Sweat Drew Hanlon School of Training, so I know he's ready to go. He's always out there ready to get a bucket. So
Oh gosh. If Jeff does this mid-show, you know you said something you shouldn't have. Something that it was maybe embarrassing.
I gotta give my guy
wrong,
It
shout
was
out.
embarrassing. It just was something that I would not have said myself.
I got to give my guys shout outs. You know how it is.
Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with the shout out at all.
Nick is just the plug master today. He's plugging all these different things today. I love it. Jeff, best NBA prop for you tonight. What do you like?
We'll go to the Memphis game too, but we'll stay on your team. We'll go over 10.5 boards for the Joker tonight. We'll take Jokic over the 10.5. Has been in double-digit rebounds has been in double-digit rebounds the last 5 games. 8 of the last 10 for Joker. I expect a lot of possessions in this game, which leads to a lot of rebounds because there'll be more missed shots with more possessions. That's how math works. So we'll go to over 10.5 with Joker on the rebounds tonight.
I love it. Jeff, it sounds like you have a little bit of content coming our way tonight.
Yes.
With a special guest kind of giving us a preview for March Madness. So be on the lookout for that. We're all on the Book It Sports app. We're all talking all things NHL, college basketball, NBA. You can find us there. Tune in to Pass the Fred and get yes, that's right.
I blocked you.
John Morant may be good, points plus assists. I like that too. That sounds good. So be sure to head to the Book It Sports app. We have some really, really hot people right now that are dishing out bets left and right.
A lot of winners.
Lots of winners. And it's a great place to be. It's a community and we're all having fun and getting ready for March Madness. So be sure to head to the Book It Sports app. Also, be sure, if you're a college student, to send Nick an email, nick@bookitsports.app, for more information on our college ambassador program. Fellas, it's always a pleasure. Oh my gosh, I can't speak. It's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me. And we will be back next week.